Good morning, podcast. I'm Pierre, your host, and today I have for you a new episode with an awesome guest. His name is Michael Yamashita. Michael is National Geographic that has been around for way longer than me, and that is why this episode is awesome, because as you might have realized, most of my guests so far has been, I would say, in the same age range. But Michael is one of those photographers that inspired us when we were kids. And that is the awesome part. He is a National Geographic travel photographer. He's been specializing in Asia and he retraced the Marco Polo route. It's such an honor to be sitting down with Michael and being able to dive a little bit into his stories and how he approaches photography, because that's something that I feel is a little bit missing lately, is being able to access photographers who have been at it for way longer than me and see how they perceive the world, how they perceive storytelling, and what really makes them tick. So in this episode, we're going to be digging into a bunch of cool stuff, like why Afghanistan was the most impactful country he ever visited, what are his thoughts on creating versus capturing, how he got started, and I love his story, like how he got started into photography, how did he sign up with National Geographic, and also we'll be digging into why an area of expertise is something very important for you as a photographer. So without any further ado, make sure you go check out Michael Yamashita on Instagram at Yamashita Photo. That way you can have a little bit of insight into his world. It's YAMASHITA PHOTO. I think you can spell photo, but who knows? Anyway, let's get started. Let's welcome Michael to the podcast. Welcome to the podcast, Mike.
Thank you.
It's an honor to have you here. And I would love for you to tell me what is your most memorable photo and the story behind it.
That's really hard to bring it down to just one in my 40-year career. So, I could tell you in terms of stories, which ones had the most impact. I've done over 30 stories for National Geographic, and certainly the one that kind of raised my profile was Marco Polo, which, as you may know the route, it's started in Venice, and I was able to do it in 1999 to 2001. It took about 3 years, and I traveled from Venice to China via Iran, Iraq, Turkey, Iran, Iraq, Vietnam. Anyway, did the whole Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, then China, then coming back to Vietnam and South China Sea, all the Southeast Asian countries, and Indian Ocean. Anyway, it was epic and long, and it ran 3 different issues in the magazine. Ran over 80 pages, and at the time that was a big deal. And it became a book and a documentary and all of that. And so from all that hoopla, kind of, which is what everybody hopes is going to happen, is your story turns into something much bigger, and that's what happened to me, and kind of elevated me to another level, which we're all as professionals seeking to each step of the way, going up another level. So
nice.
That's it. I won't describe a particular picture, but if anybody's interested, they can go check out the Geographic or any of my books. I have quite a few. On Asian topics, which is my area of interest and expertise.
Love it. How long was that trip?
The Geographic in those days was quite flush in terms of resources, and so it took me. I think I had my first contract was about a year, and then I ended up spending another year doing the South China South, the route going back. We took a year plus to get him to travel the overland route, and then after the editors saw the pictures, we said, well, let's take him back on the sea routes, which we did, and that took another year or so. And
You traveled by sea also then?
Yeah.
Yeah. What was it, like a sailboat?
No, already it was very difficult to find. You're doing one of these stories. You're trying very much to make pictures that evoke the time of Marco Polo, which in this case was 13th century.
Yeah.
And however, to find sailboats, is not easy to do.
Yeah.
Chinese junks, of course, had sails, and we took a few of them, but very far and few in between. Arab dhows, no more in existence. So even back then, very little having to do with sail. But
I imagine. Was there either a place or a country that struck you the most during that tour, or?
Oh yeah, well, it was Afghanistan.
Afghanistan.
Yeah.
What year was it in?
2000, just before 9/11.
2000. Oh wow.
And the thing, of course, Afghanistan was just totally destroyed.
Yeah.
There was no infrastructure was totally destroyed. There were no cars. Well, there were a few cars. We got one of them, a Toyota truck. And the interesting part, of course, was it was like being back in the 13th century. There's no electricity. Everybody was traveling by horse cart. Roads were a mess, and if you live in a country with no electricity, it takes you back to the Dark Ages. So.
Yeah, that's crazy. And that was in 2000. Yeah.
Yeah, this is this is before the invasion of Afghanistan and the death of Massoud.
Yeah.
Massoud was the leader of the Northern Alliance, and he helped us.
Yeah.
Not only get in, but the more difficult part was getting out of Afghanistan. So, I mean, it's a long story I could go into.
Yeah.
That
should be a full episode, just the Afghanistan story.
Yeah, but Afghanistan certainly, because people basically, it was here. This kind of story, I'm looking for pictures, as I say, that evoke a feeling of what it was like.
Yeah.
When Marco Polo was traveling and 700 years ago. So Afghanistan was natural in that everything was very much similar to when he traveled. It hadn't changed at all as far as, of course it's changed, but anyway, it was the most, it was the most interesting as far as the photographs are concerned.
Yeah. Well, how would you, when you were there, and obviously I don't think people would see many foreigners pass by.
No, in fact, I was there with Mike Edwards, a geographic writer, and we were obviously very, could stand out because, we weren't wearing the native dress, of course, and we had. We were driving in a a truck that was given to us by Massoud with a big bunch of jerry cans of gas, and then guards with AK-47s riding in the back.
Oh, wow.
So,
you had guards at the time?
Oh, yeah. Well, the Civil War was going on. Massoud was fighting the Taliban.
Yeah.
I photographed him going into battle, and he basically gave us a letter that gave us safe passage across this territory that he was in control of, which was fortunately the northern part of Afghanistan, and that was the Marco Polo route.
Oh, interesting. And how were people? Were they receptive to being taken photos of? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, again, it's nice to be in a place where, people are not, certainly there were no tourists, and there weren't many people carrying cameras. So, I had free rein to
everyone gets excited,
away.
Yeah. That's awesome. Can you take us a little bit further back and tell us about your background story? What's the original story? While we were walking together, you shared interesting.
Okay,
facts.
well, I was an avid amateur who, against all odds, I guess, ended up working for the Geographic. So I like to say to my friends, photographer friends, followers, and photo workshops that I am their best dream, in that I was a wannabe photographer who developed his skills without going to schools or taking classes. And anyway, just eat, sleep, and drank photography. So and became a photographer for the Geographic, partly for my interest and concentration on Asia, where I had been living for 4 years before I became a photographer. And I was living in Japan, and they of course make great cameras, and I bought a bunch of cameras and got hooked on photography, and traveled widely in Asia. Ended up living 4 years in Japan, and then hung out my shingle and went to the Geographic, and pretty immediately got work. But,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Did you? How did the process look like? At the time, did you walk in and be like, "Hey guys, I'm from"?
Well, you had to have
Asia.
some introduction, and I was living and based in New York, so I was taking my portfolio around, and I ran into some people who had contacts with the Geographic, and they introduced me to a couple of the photographers, who then introduced me to the director of photography, Bob Kilka at the time, who was a legend in photography everywhere, and especially noted for finding young talent. And he basically had a feeling that, again, you have to start somewhere, and you're showing pictures that you took in the past, and you're asking a client to fund you to go out and shoot pictures in the future, and you have to. It's a leap of faith. So a young person with very little experience, I was able to. He had confidence and faith, and somehow I got the jobs.
That's great. So, that's someone.
And it was in Japan, which was my strongest suit to work in Japan, and it was a success, and I never looked back. I must say, before then, I was also living in Singapore, and I did get a lot of work as a photographer in Singapore.
Yeah.
But I was living my dream, traveling, living in several countries, but mostly Singapore and Asia, and got my first chances there.
Got it. What for you makes I would say, like a great photo, even through your work or other people's work?
Well, in photojournalism, it's about impact.
Yeah.
It's storytelling, and especially now, almost all stories are, you don't see multi-picture spreads, you see one picture. And so that picture has to be not just grab your attention, but it has to have a lot of information in it. So this is today's photojournalism. It's down to single picture spreads, and if there's anything that I can do well, it's spreads. I'm not very much good at shooting vertical, even but anyway, you need photos with impact, is what I say. Page stoppers. So somebody's reading the magazine and flipping pages, as we all do, and a picture just grabs the reader's attention, and the reader is just compelled to stare at it and maybe read the caption. Yeah. And the caption, at least in the Geographic, is designed to get that reader to maybe read the story. Since, again, in instant information, so many people just are looking at the photographs. So.
Yeah. Do you, when you're on the field and you're taking a photo, do you have a sense of how good the photo is going to be just by when you click it?
Yes,
yeah.
Especially now. Now I spent most of my career shooting film, where you didn't know what was on the film, but you had a good idea if you had something good. But now, of course, you can check the finder.
Yeah, you just check nowadays.
But I don't. When I'm shooting, I other than making sure that I have a well exposed and sharp photograph, I turn off the preview button because if you're looking at the subject on the back of your screen, you're missing what's going on in front of the screen, and it's what's going to happen that's more important. You already got that picture. Who do you care?
Yeah.
You can't do anything about that one. You're waiting for the next one, and you're waiting to see the moment. And if you're checking that back screen, which I notice many young photographers are doing as part of their workflow, they're always checking the back screen. Well, they are missing what's up front. So
that is very true. That's
and that's a lesson from film.
Yeah, I think I made a whole video on that. Just on that, because like you, I would see a lot of photographers. They just every photo, like every single photo, they would check it, and I told them, you got to be confident at what you shoot. Yeah. And if you're not, just put it in auto. The camera will do a better job than you.
Absolutely.
Sometimes. Yeah. Speaking of that, how important, especially nowadays versus film days, how important do you think like the camera and the settings are in a photo?
Well, I think you still have to know what an f-stop is and a shutter speed, but I tell my students in workshops to put it on automatic.
Yeah.
Because the cameras are so good that it's fairly, I mean, the number of pictures you're going to throw away or delete are few, because the exposure and the everything is so accurate.
Yeah.
And these new cameras, 15 stop dynamic range, that's ridiculous. You don't need a strobe anymore.
You can make so many mistakes.
You can't even shoot a silhouette anymore because there's detail in the shadow. It's incredible. So, trust the camera is what I tell them.
Yeah. I'm going to be mindful because we have to run away to a workshop. But I had one last question, which would be, how do you see the evolution of travel photography? Especially nowadays, in the past 5 years, it's been absolutely insane with what happened with social media and everything. I've seen it just dipping my toes nowadays. I see how quickly it's changing. What's your take on it right now?
Well, I don't see, it's very difficult for a travel photographer to make a living. First of all, the outlets are few. Second of all, they don't have to pay.
Yeah.
There's just too much out there. And if you want a picture of this place in Oregon where we are, you can get it by the minute. You just it's never been easier to find great photography on every subject in the world, because there's thousands of amateurs who are now asking for money, willing to put their pictures up so that they can be seen. And there's nothing wrong with that, but the magazines or what's left, or the outlets for travel stuff, there's no market for it.
Yeah.
So very difficult for young photographers to make a living. And I think if there's any, your best portfolio is Instagram.
Got it. Yeah.
And because again, you've got the art directors and editors looking at Instagram, looking for pictures all the time.
Yeah.
And so if you stand out, that what few jobs there are out there, you might be, up for one of them because of what they see, what you shoot on Instagram. and also your specialty, whatever that may be. You know, in my case, it's geographic, so I shoot 95% on Asia, which is my choice for where I shoot.
Yeah. So it's good to have an area of expertise, like or like a spot.
You still need to know what a shutter speed and f-stop can do for you. But otherwise, for the camera, I use autofocus, auto exposure, auto ISO. I mean, it's hard to. I mean, it's not like I put it on P or A and let it do what it wants. I still have control, at least over shutter speeds and f-stops. But anyway, it's not the technical anymore. It's your vision, and that's what you should be working on. Is the technical side of photography is not that important anymore. It's about how you see and what you're focusing on.
That's great. Do you have any creative exercise or suggestion that we can leave people with? That maybe, because I don't know if you get a lot of questions, but I get a lot of questions from people they have their normal job, they just love photography, and when you shoot always the same place, you just get bored sometimes. And they're like, I love photography, but I don't have inspiration, I'm bored. Or would you have any tip what they can do maybe this weekend?
Oh my gosh. Well, there's a lot of pictures out there, and I don't care where you live. I mean, in my own little backyard, I have a place in the city, I have a place in New Jersey, in the country, and I'm always carrying that camera and looking for a picture, whether it's shooting the family or, it's beautiful light, so I'm up early, so I go up to the roof of the apartment looking for a picture. Snow, unusual weather conditions. I think there's a lot to shoot just around your house. You just, again, use your eyes and find something. Try a different lens. Try something long or super wide, and try and see how it might change your vision. But I think, carry the camera all the time.
I like that. I like what you're saying. Yeah, I think we can leave everyone with that, and we're gonna run away to a workshop.
Thank you.
So thank you so much, Michael.
Yeah,
I'd love to dig in the future into your Afghanistan story, but that's gonna be a long one. Thank you so much, Michael, for your time. Wow, guys, thank you so much for listening that far to the podcast. I hope you have enjoyed that episode. Michael has been awesome to talk to. I love being able to hear all the stories he had, hear how the photography world completely changed over time, and what he thinks a little bit about what's happening nowadays, and how we can still be telling better stories. And is there still a place for travel photography? Well, I think we'll have to do a follow-up episode. If you have any question, make sure you hit me up on Instagram at Pierre T. Lambert, and on Twitter. If you like that episode, share it with your dog, your cat, as usual, because they must be pretty well educated by now, and also all your friends and anyone around you that you feel could benefit from it. Maybe your Instagram stories, who knows? Anyway, guys, get out there, go shoot, try something different, try something new. Check out Michael on Instagram and everywhere on the web, and I will talk to you in the next episode. See ya.